What's up guys, Trevor here with Brunk Outdoors, and in this video I want to give you guys my opinion and reasonings why I think every single bow hunter should be utilizing a GoPro or some sort of action camera as their head camera to be able to see exactly where they hit an animal and be able to relive their hunts. So I wanted to start off with a little backstory. I've been filming my hunts for over 8 years now. Some of them you guys have seen on YouTube, but we've been filming, for quite some time now, using big heavy cameras and camera arms and all the jazz. But as I've filmed more and more and more, I've wanted to try to simplify things because for me, hunting is a passion. I'm not trying to get famous off it. I'm not trying to do all this influencer stuff. I really don't care about that. For me, hunting is about the experience. And if I can share my experience with my brother, Hunter, or my family, as well as share it with some of you who enjoy watching it, great. So going into 2021, I had full intentions of utilizing my main camera setup with the camera arm on, whitetail hunts. But going into our 2021 Colorado elk and mule deer hunt, I really wanted to try to see if we could utilize more of an action camera footage. There's a lot of stuff that happens between, the caller and the shooter, or the spotter and the stalker on the mule deer hunt. And, although, Hunter would be on a stalk, and you can't film him really, unless you just use a spotter and film him all the way down. But I wanted to get that first person view of what Hunter saw, or of what I saw if we were elk hunting on the hunt. So I bought a head strap for my GoPro Hero 5 at the time, and I said, let's utilize this more. Whoever's going to go in on and try to get a shot, put this on their head, record it. It's going to be awesome. And I was honestly blown away of how cool the footage turned out. Now, it should be no surprise, but it turned out way better than I expected because I hadn't used a GoPro on my head in the past. I've toyed around with the idea of putting it on my bow. I've toyed around with the idea of putting it on my, on the tree, but I've never just said, you know what, I'm gonna put it on my head, the part of my body that is always looking at the animal that I'm hunting, and get whatever I'm looking at, right? And I'm glad I did, because I got some of the coolest footage of our Western hunts in the heat of the moment. The video hasn't been published yet, but you guys are gonna see clips here. With that experience, I was able to capture things that I wouldn't have done if we didn't use the GoPro. When I got in on the bull a couple different times, I had a bull come in back and forth, almost called him back in the second time, and he was just hung up at 80 yards and couldn't do anything about it in a meadow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a hot sunny day. Ended up chasing him down, and eventually, we got on like 3 or 4 different times, but finally the coolest footage, we got this bull coming in at 50 yards with cows. And I had been setting up different spots, being very aggressive, ranging multiple different spots, and pushing in closer and closer with each bugle. And finally, he ended up coming in, and he ended up coming in at 30 yards. But I had ranged, and this is just backstory, I'd ranged too many spots. And I screwed up the shot, I misranged it, and I shot him for 18, and he was actually at 30, so I ended up shooting him in the front leg. And at the shot, I didn't think I hit him. And I was really bummed because it sounded like I hit something hard that wasn't a sound of elk. It ended up being the sound of bone because I smacked him in the arm. And the way we figured that out is because we watched the footage back on the GoPro. I walked over to the spot and I was like, nope, there's no blood here. no blood at all. So then I went back to where I shot from and stood there, watched the footage on the GoPro Hero 5, and boom, you could see it. You could see I hit the elk in the leg, and you can see once it impacted, the back end of the lighted knock like wobbled around, so you could tell it hit something hard, and it didn't do what it needed to do. So long story short, I didn't recover that elk, but we did track him for a while. But the coolest part is we were able to get Hunter's kill on his mule deer on video with the GoPro. You know, right after that elk, I was like, man, this head cam life is the way to go. It's way easy. It's small, portable. You can literally stick it in your pocket. It doesn't weigh anything, and you know, you can capture some of the coolest footage you can get. And so, you know, when Hunter shot that mule deer, he got multiple follow-up shots at it, made them count, and it just kind of just put the nail in the coffin that both of us were going to be running head cameras for 2021 because the footage was just too cool to pass up. And I think it's got a very good place for the average guys who don't make YouTube videos, right? You don't have to make YouTube videos to want to film your hunts. Like I said, I mean, it may be hard to tell because it's hard with the bear and this black on black, but I mean, this literally is like just tiny, way tiny. Put it in your pocket and go. Now, going into the deer season, I decided I wanted both of us to have a head camera. So I ended up picking up the GoPro Hero 10. It's their latest version, and I'll have the GoPros linked in our video description. Not sponsored by GoPro by any means. I just think they're good cameras. They've been out for a long time. I mean, this is the 10th generation. I mean, that tells you something. They've been around for quite some time. And so by now, I mean, there's a lot of bugs that they've fixed in the cameras, and they take some incredible videos. There are other brands out there, DJI, Insta 360. They all make, you know, similar cameras, but I really do enjoy my GoPro for this application. The settings that I use on the GoPro, now this Hero 10 does take 5K footage, which is better than 4K footage, and 4K is much better than 1080p. So 4K footage, think of it as this entire screen here you see. So that's 4K. 1080 would be roughly like this much. So what that does here is you can shoot this 4K image here, and then we can crop it down right here to my hand, and it'll blow it up bigger, which is great in applications of post edit. I mean, when you're editing in post, and you can really go in and zoom in exactly where that animal was, so you can get a better angle of where you hit the animal, where it was standing, and really get an idea of where it was at. Now, my settings, like I said, I run it in 4K. I don't run it at 5K because 5K on this camera only does 30 frames a second, which works. But if you're going to go back and review your footage and see exactly where your arrow flew, the best way to do that is to get 60 frames a second. And so from there, that's why I do the 4K 60 frames a second. You can still crop in a good amount, but you also get the ability to have more frames every second, so you can see exactly where that arrow flew to where it impacted the animal. You don't have, let's say, 24 frames a second where it's just a blur and it happens so fast you can't really tell. You want to be able to tell exactly where it hits. Now, I'm going to give you guys a pro tip if you guys have stuck in this video this long. If you're going to do this, you're going to want to do this. You're going to go and you're going to put it on your head, and it's going to be center, right? And even if you're wearing a hat, I don't have a hat in here, but even if you're wearing a hat, you're going to say, okay, I put it on, it's center. No. I've seen people do this on YouTube. Don't do this. The reason why is when you shoot your bow, you're shooting your bow like this. You're looking more across your nose, right? And my GoPro is looking this way. So, a pro tip for you guys, if you're going to do this, you can run it like this, like walking in, B-roll footage, but the minute you get set up in the tree, the minute you're going in on a stalk, slide it to your temple on your shooting arm, the arm with your bow. Put the back side here, this like bracket, put that bracket right on your and you can play around with this in your backyard and review footage. Put it right there on your temple. So for me, I'm a right-handed shooter. This is on my left temple. And if you look at me, you can tell, well, it's off. You look like an even bigger doofus, right? But when you go to shoot, look, it's right down the bow. And it cheats it a little bit. So your bow is going to be on the right side of the frame, because when you're doing this, you want to make sure that it's over far enough that your bow's not blocking it either. So you want it far enough over that it's out of the way of the bow, so you can see past the bow. So your bow will be on the right side of your frame, and the animal will be center to the left. And so when you shoot, just make sure you follow it kind of at your same rate here. So if I would shoot an animal, I would shoot and I'd follow it, but I'd be watching it out of the corner of my eye. I wouldn't be just looking straight on, because I wouldn't get it, right? So you'd want to just follow it like that. Hopefully that makes some sense, but that's a pro tip that I found using it. Just make sure you put it on the temple on your forehead, and angle down just slightly. Don't have it be flat like that. Angle it down just slightly. I know I probably look like an idiot, but somebody's gonna get some get a tip out of this. But yeah, that's the main reason why I like the GoPro. You guys have seen footage on this video. That's kind of the main point. I wanted to show you guys what you can capture. So if you're interested, make sure you check out the GoPros. And what this is, I didn't even talk about it. It's just a GoPro Hero 10 on a same top head strap. GoPro makes a head strap as well, but this is just a cheap knockoff version. And I'll link both of these in the video description below. And I'll also link the right micro SD card to use, because if you don't get a fast enough one, you're gonna have issues with 4K footage. So, but with that, I'm gonna wrap this up here. Hopefully you guys got an idea of the kind of footage you can capture with just a GoPro strapped on your head. With that, I'm gonna wrap up this video. If you liked it, make sure you hit the thumbs up button and subscribe, and we'll see you all in the next one.